low. I got my socks fitted. You know how I roll.
This is how we roll.
I got my shoes high and my jeans low. I got my socks fitted. You know how I roll.
This is how we roll.
Homicidal clothes cause I'm dressed to kill. Leave 6 bitches oohing cause I'm worth a mill. Flow is ill, spitting no vomit spill. Killing them softly but I ain't Lauren.
All right. What is up, my people? Welcome to another episode of the Townie Sports Podcast. I am one of your 2 hosts, Sami. It's been a while, but alongside, as always, calling from Antarctica, Vic. Vic, how you doing, bro?
It's cold up here, bro. Just living the dream.
Well, I'm so glad you're on your trip. You were still able to call in and we could get this pod started, even though you were technically missing from our other guy that we got here, one of our regulars from the Fair Weather Podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to check out episode 68. Came out today. Your one and only was on it. Vic missed it, but A-Rod, thanks for joining us, man.
Anytime, boys. Always a pleasure to be on.
I've been on that show so many times.
I know. I know. I gotta give you some shit, man. I did you well in your honor. You could ask A-Rod.
Get out of here.
And he spoke highly for you in the show in your absence, so you were definitely missed, but your presence was definitely felt the entire time.
Or lack thereof.
You got a few shout outs on it though.
Yeah, big time.
You know I love hearing my own name, so I can't wait to listen later.
But all right, obviously we are about 50 minutes away from tip-off of the 2022 NBA Finals. That's kind of where we are going to gear today's episode towards. We're going to do a little touch on the West Coast, the Western Conference Finals, kind of what we saw there. And then, of course, we're going to dive more in depth on the Eastern Conference Finals, some of the mistakes we saw there. And we're going to wrap it all, bring it all together, and kind of touch on what are some of the keys, what are our predictions for this series, and all the good stuff on the NBA Finals. So with that being said, let's get started. First, we'll probably make this pretty quick. We had the Western Conference Finals. The Golden State Warriors obviously took down the Dallas Mavericks in a gentleman's sweep, 4-1. I don't think there were a lot of surprises there. But A-Rod, you're our guest first. I mean, we're going to let Vic talk. I know Vic's probably going to talk for most of this podcast because he didn't get to talk yesterday. Wink, wink. But A-Rod, what did you see from that, or what didn't you see? Were you surprised by anything in that Western Conference Finals?
I mean, the only surprise that I had that the Mavericks were in it. You couldn't tell me that they were going to be in the Western Conference Finals beginning of the season. And, me and KK on our podcast, we were saying that, that they got smaller by trading away Porzingis, and that's going to hurt them when they make the playoffs. And we last laugh at that. So, the little guys got in. They got to beat the Phoenix Suns, which was pretty amazing. Because we were promised that the Suns were going to be one of those teams in the finals. Everything was on paper there, but if you really watch basketball, you really kind of know how the Suns are, and even the NBA players are calling out the Suns. But what I took away from that series was Luka needs a lot of help. He has a lot of good shooters on that team, but they just went cold, and they went cold at the wrong time. And he needs some size. He can't do it. He's 6'8". I always give Vic shit because I always thought he was a midget, but Vic is really like 6 foot tall. So, he can't do it all himself, man. I know he's a big body point guard, but the Warriors, their name is the Warriors for a reason, man. They've been to consecutive finals. They're in there constantly, and you can't sleep on them. And I was saying from the beginning of the year, like, they're going to be one of the teams to go to the finals this year from the West. So,
yeah, great call, Vic. What about you? What did you take? What were some of your takeaways? Were you surprised by anything in that Western Conference Finals?
Surprised? Yes. Surprised that the Mavs were there. Same as A-Rod. I don't feel like they lost it because of their lack of size, A-Rod. I think it was more of their three-point shooting. I don't think that size is the big issue with Golden State. In fact, we're going to talk about this later. I feel like that's a detriment to them coming up against the series with the Celtics is their lack of size. So I don't think the Porzingis trade hurt the Mavs. I think it was just their lack of three-point shooting. They legitimately just stopped making threes. Luka is going to Luka. He has currently the second most average. Actually, to be honest, he's tied with Giannis for the second most average points per game during the playoffs at 31.7. So I mean, it wasn't really Luka's fault. I would think it's more the cast around him. But if I'm being honest, I want to take a look at the road that the Warriors had to go through. Right, so they had to go through a jawless Memphis. Right. They went through hurt teams this entire time, pretty much, right? They don't have that matchup with Phoenix because Dallas takes them out. They end up with a Dallas team that doesn't make threes. I don't feel as this is the old Golden State team of the past. I'm thinking it's more of a fluky made it to the finals because they were honestly the healthiest team going through, even with Gary Payton.
Hot take from a hot Celtics fan, man.
I see what he's saying. I think the delivery, and I'm pretty sure it was deliberate. I think the delivery was what's killing us, A-Rod, on that one. But I see what he's trying to get at. That
I kind of see it too.
Yeah, they kind of snuck in there because they were probably, how should I say, healthier. They were a healthier team, probably the deeper team throughout that playoff run. So I could definitely see that. I think this is still kind of a very smart team, a very well-coached team, very disciplined team, and these guys can score in absolute bunches. And I definitely do agree with you there, Vic. I think that probably their weakness is the fact that maybe they're not battle-tested this season. I'm not saying battle-tested as a whole. They are completely most of those players are battle-tested as a whole. But as far as this season goes, they're not. They don't have that fresh battle test. But
look, honestly, the hardest part for me is trying to figure out. So these past two series, I've had a few players to hate, right? I've been able to hate Jimmy Butler. I've been able to hate Kyle Lowry. I've been able to hate Grayson Allen. This is going to be tough for me with the Golden State team here. I don't really know who am I going to hate on this team. I guess Draymond, but like other than that, I mean, how can you hate on Steph? How can you hate on Clay? I mean, that's the toughest part for me. Is worrying about who to hate this series. I mean, Sammy, you and I both discussed we started to hate Giannis Antetokounmpo at the end of that Celtics series.
Yeah,
he's like one of the nicest dudes in the league.
I know. We both loved him too, so it's just like
right. How am I as a fan going to find a way to hate this Golden State team? That's my key goal here.
Yeah. So okay, they moved on. Obviously, we'll touch more on kind of some of the keys to the game. What are their strengths and weaknesses going into the finals? But let's touch on that Eastern Conference Finals. So the Celtics were victorious 4-3, had to obviously take the toughest road to get there. Not only did they take the toughest road as far as opponents throughout the playoffs, but obviously they chose to take every game to Game 7, other than obviously that Brooklyn series where they swept Brooklyn, which, you know, both A-Rod and KK gave the Celtics a lot of credit for going in and taking care of business in Brooklyn. But Vic, I'll let you start here. What were some of your thoughts, takeaways on that Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat?
My biggest takeaway was how many years is this series going to take off my life? And I think I ended up at around 3. So I'm going to die 3 years sooner because of that series. And I don't think I've ever shouted no louder in my life than when Jimmy Butler pulled up for that 3. I thought it was going in. I'll talk about the series as a whole, but I really want to touch on the shot that Jimmy Butler took. And I want A-Rod's opinion. I want your opinion. When I saw that shot go up, I thought it was going in. How did you guys feel when you saw that?
I'll let A-Rod go. We were together, actually, that day.
Yeah. We thought it was, I thought it was going in.
Sorry.
Go ahead, A-Rod. What did you think about that shot?
I mean, if I'm a betting man, I thought it was going in. So it looked sweet. Horford is running back. He didn't move forward to go try and block, so there was a lot of room. So it looked like he had enough time to just set and shoot. But, you know, he played 48 minutes in a game, and I'm sure he's tired. So I have a feeling that has to affect him at that point. But watching that, I mean, everybody was like jaw dropping right there. It couldn't be more cinematic right there for you. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm the opposite. Like, I obviously I thought it was gonna go in, right? So my hand. A-Rod's witnessed kind of that whole that whole drama that was going on through my mind throughout those last 3 minutes, especially in that last second when he shot that ball. But in my head, I'm sitting next to one of my good friends, Danny, watching the game. Obviously, A-Rod's with us too, and the first thing I thought of was something that Mark Jackson mentioned many, many times on the broadcast, right? So what happened in game one was kind of what transpired to lead to that shot in game seven. So in game one, we were biting on every single Jimmy Butler pump fake. Every single one. When he's going up to raise up for a jump shot, we're biting on it, right? And then as the series progressed, we stopped. He was still getting his fouls. He was still getting his buckets. But as a Celtics fan, as a Celtics team, if he's going to raise up for a jump shot, you're going to live with that. You just have to. You know what I mean? That's not his game. He loves to get to the hole. He loves to go to the free throw line. That's where he gets a lot of majority of his points. So looking at it from my perspective, like just kind of taking myself out of it for a second, imagining if I'm a Miami Heat fan. On one side, I can see why you'd be okay with it. On the other side, I'm not, only because you're on an 11-0 run on that point, right? You make this bucket, you potentially get the and one, you go up one. You make the bucket, and as Jimmy Butler is very good at when he gets inside the three-point line, you make that layup, you make that tough jumper over Al Horford, you cause a foul, you tie the game automatically. You have all of the momentum going into overtime. You know, you just give yourself an extra 5 minutes. And I get the mentality of Jimmy Butler. You want to be a killer. You want to put the game away. So you raise up for a three, but you also know that that's not your game. Mark Jackson says that all the time. That is not Jimmy Butler's game. If you lose on a Jimmy Butler three-pointer, well, you know, that's just how the cookie crumbled that day. As Celtics fans, we have to live with that. And that's how I saw it. And as a Heat fan, I can see why you're okay with Jimmy Butler taking that shot, but you got to want more, in my opinion. You have all the momentum going into that overtime. You take that extra 5 minutes. You know what I mean? You go to the hole. That's my opinion on it.
I mean, personally, me, I would have gone for the layup. But like asking me, was I okay with it in that moment? Yes. If I'm Jimmy Butler in that moment, I have that mentality. Yes. But after the shot and looking at it and sitting there and dissecting it, yeah, it makes more sense. Drive to the hole. You're good at drawing contact. And especially on somebody like Al Horford, who's, you know, he's a great defender, but stupid calls are called all the time. So,
yeah,
ratings. According to the 2 minute report, they missed 2 calls there on the Heat in those last 2 minutes. So I'm glad that he didn't get that bucket, because if he did, the refs would be the talk of that game. Another thing in that last game 7 was Max Strus wipe away 3. I know how I felt about it. You're out of bounds, dude. I don't care when you're out of bounds. You're out of bounds. Game over, and end of story. You're out of bounds. I know you guys have seen this picture circling around social media. I mean, Max himself put it on Instagram today about how the other angle, right, where it kind of shows that his foot is lifted above the line, but from the other angle you see that his foot's actually touching the line. So, A-Rod, what are your thoughts on, was Strus out of bounds? If he is out of bounds, is that a legit call to go back and wipe that 3 off 3 minutes later? In my opinion, you take those points off the board. They shouldn't have happened in the first place. You missed the call, take them off.
Personally, who the fuck is Strus? Like, never heard of him throughout the year. So, I'm like really 50-50 on it. I think it was just like a play where there was momentum going and the call was called. And then, we call a timeout, and then they go back and review it, and then they take it away. So I think that's just kind of, the rule book. Of course, there'll be something in there that says that's okay. But I mean, if momentum is going and it's called, and you're not going back to look at it, but a timeout is called by a team, and then you've got time to look at it, it's kind of shitty to me. And at the end of the day, the better team won, and that's what it is. You can sit there and pish posh and have a pity party about losing. It's a 50-50 for me. I can look at it both ways. And truthfully, Max Strus, just be happy you got playing time this year, especially exposure. So that's all I got to say.
And I think as a sports fan in general, if you think that happened in the first half, changes the outcome.
Second quarter.
Yeah. So if you think that changes the outcome of the game, you must not watch sports because they're playing those next 3 minutes, assuming Max Strus made that shot. So all the play after that also has to be taken into consideration when you're looking at the macro dynamics of the basketball game. You know what I mean? So when I saw people bitching about that, I'm like, are you serious? Like, I get it. I'd probably be pissed if it was the other foot, but I'm old enough to know that that's not going to change the outcome of the game in the first half. Now, if this was a call in the last 3 minutes of the game, big deal.
I'm blocking anybody on Twitter that says, that Max Strus takeaway 3 cost us the game because we lost by, however many points. And it's like, no, dude, that's not how basketball works. Casual. This is how basketball works, okay?
Momentum.
If we really want to get like nitpicky about it, the Celtics had 8 calls in Game 6 go against them, according to the last 2-minute report. So, and I'm not going to do that because that's just the way the game is. Now, those refs in Game 6 were awful. I think everybody here would agree with that. But now, Sami, as a series as a whole, I mean, from a Celtics fan's perspective, this series was awesome, right? What a great series. We had highs, we had lows. We were there. From an NBA fan, A-Rod, I want your perspective. I know a lot of people actually hated this series because the majority of the games were blowouts. How would you say, how did you feel from your perspective?
As a fan of the NBA, it made me love a player more and get respect for one in Jayson Tatum because I never saw that closer mentality. I never saw that dog mentality to come out of Jayson Tatum. And I've always been hesitant to put him in my top 10. And then even in my top 5. And I said it throughout the length of this playoff. I was like, if he gets past this, he's in my top 10. And then I said, if he can get past Jimmy Butler, who is in my top 10 at number 10, then they can go on. Then he can be in my top 5. So Jayson Tatum, I have a new profound liking for, even though he's a Celtic, and I absolutely hate the Celtics because I'm a Knicks fan. But we don't have to talk about that trash-ass team. But I enjoy watching the Celtics play, and I enjoy hearing you guys talk about them. And I kind of get educated more on a team that I really don't pay much attention to outside of, like, the stars and the role players and stuff like that and how they function.
Pritchard.
As for the Heat of things, Pritchard. As on the Heat side of stuff, like, you have to just tip your hat to those guys. They're a great team. And Kyle Lowry was rushed into this series. He was hurt, and he wanted to be out there to help his team, and he's fat a little bit and, slower now. But regardless, like, he's a winner. He's at a ring. None of your guys have any rings, so you got to respect that out of the guy. So there's a lot of good veteran leadership on that team, and they're both opposites. The Celtics are pretty much a well-drafted organization, just kind of like the Warriors when we were talking on our show. And the Heat, they went out and they drafted right, but they also got, players that have that dog mentality in them and put them together. Scrappers, as I like to call them. But looking at it, I have a respect for the Heat. It's the only thing, my only gripe with the whole series was the blowouts. Like, we expected 2 good teams that are solid offense, solid defense, to hold each other to 3-4 point games and wins that way, but we didn't see that. We saw teams just let up and other guys take advantage of it, and I don't know if it's just like getting in your own head or what, but it was a 2-game
series, right? Like 6 and 7 were probably the 2 closest games we had.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's crazy to think about, A-Rod, is I know you said that you found a newfound respect for Jayson Tatum. But I'm wondering where that newfound respect for Jaylen Brown is.
I've had respect for Jaylen Brown. I feel like he's not talked about. I feel like we don't talk about Jaylen Brown enough.
No, we don't, because if you look at it, Jaylen Brown averaged more points per game in these playoffs so far than Jordan Poole, who I've heard about a million times, right? I've heard about Klay Thompson, who is not averaging as much as Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown averaging 22 points per game.
You want to know why, Vic? You want to know why? Because Klay Thompson has one of these, bro. He's got a ring, and Jaylen Brown doesn't. And Jaylen Brown, we all know, is second fiddle. He's the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan on your team.
So is Klay Thompson, but Klay Thompson doesn't play defense.
But he also is we got Game 6 Klay, so he's got a name for himself. Klay
Yeah.
Thompson has a reputation. Jaylen Brown doesn't have that yet. I agree with you. I think like when we look at not to get off subject real quick, but when we look at the All NBA teams, how stupid is it to have the Heat be number one in the Eastern Conference and have nobody represented on there? There's no reason Jimmy Butler should have been on that list, or Jaylen Brown too, in my opinion. So either one of those guys over Pascal Siakam in my book for sure.
Third team for sure, absolutely. I would have had JB third team at All NBA, to be honest with you. I just don't think he played enough games to cement his status there because he was coming up. And honestly, I'm glad that you brought that up, A-Rod, because it's not something that Sammy and I have had a chance to discuss yet. Jayson Tatum becoming a first team All NBA player, and then on top of that, Marcus Smart winning Defensive Player of the Year, and Marcus and Rob ending up on first team All Defense. First and second team. I'm sorry, first and second team. I think Rob was second team All Defense, right?
Yeah.
And how they match up with Golden State. So,
Perfect segue.
yeah, let's go ahead, Terry, because I want to touch on this a lot, like what the Celtics have done here during this rebuild and everything. Honestly, I'm going to get emotional about it because I'm just so happy.
Keep your clothes on.
Yeah, take us there, Sammy. Take us home. I'll let you give us the segue, Sammy.
Okay, perfect segue. So yeah, now we can talk about kind of Vic. So give me your takes on kind of this journey that the Celtics have taken since January, and because here's why I think we need to touch on this, and this is going to give people a good perspective because all three of us are big NBA fans in general. Obviously, Vic, you and I have the Townie Sports perspective on this because we watch every Celtics game, or at least the majority of the Celtics games that we can. I definitely don't watch as many as you do, but I watch at least 3/4 of the game every year. But take us through kind of why are people discussing, like you had mentioned, the Jordan Pooles, the Klay Thompsons. I mean, take out Jayson Tatum and Steph Curry, right? Like, let's put them away. Let's talk about the rest of those roster construction. I'm saying, like, everybody talks about both of those, but everybody's more focused on the role players of Golden State and kind of overlooking those role players of the Boston Celtics. And kind of how are we well equipped, or how are the Celtics, I shouldn't say we as much, how are the Celtics well equipped to potentially defeat the Golden State Warriors?
Not potentially, Sam. They're gonna beat Golden State. And honestly, I can't believe how much people are discounting this defense, right? So let's take a look at the five, right? So we got Robert Williams, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Jayson Tatum, right? That's our starting five. That's five guys that are over 6'4", right, in the starting lineup. As far as matching up with Golden State, there's no team that matches up better. And if you look at how Marcus Smart defends Steph Curry at a high level, I believe it's something like Curry's averaging around 30% shooting when Marcus Smart is guarding the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just number one, takeaway defense. This defense can switch, right? So we can switch onto their bigs. I don't feel like Golden State has that same ability to switch against our bigger forwards, like our wings, like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So when it comes to Jordan Poole, when he's on the floor, that's something I think that the Celtics are going to end up hunting, kind of like they did with Max Strus and Tyler Hero during the Heat series.
And Duncan Robinson for a little bit.
Right. They're going to put Poole in the screens, try and get Tatum or Brown matched up with Poole, and then take Poole for all it's worth. The X factor here is going to be Draymond and Klay. Is Klay healthy enough to be like A-Rod said, Game 6 Klay? If you're asking me who scares me the most in this series, it's Klay Thompson.
What about you, A-Rod? You can give either perspective you want. Obviously, I was just touching. I just wanted to touch base on why the Celtics are being underrated right now. Like everybody, there's a lot of people that are just jumping all over this Golden State team and kind of discrediting what the Celtics did to get to this finals.
I'm not going to take away your view of it because you obviously were on my show yesterday, so I'll let you.
No, do it. I have other stuff.
No. The only thing that I'm gonna say about it, one reason I would, because I know what you're gonna say, and I want you to say that. Obviously, it's your opinion on it, and it's a really good one that people should listen to. But the one that I look at is the lack of being in the finals, the youth on this team. Like, we've seen it before. How often does like first timers going to an NBA final, like, there's no representation of anybody on your team that has been to an NBA finals. So this is a first time for everybody. And yeah, it's funny to say that because listen, if anybody deserves like the Medal of Honor, is everybody on the Celtics for having to go through what they went through in the Eastern Conference playoffs. It's insane. You had literally taken down the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and, God, who we were told was going to be in the NBA finals, and you swept them. You got rid of them real quick. Like they're an afterthought. Then you went through the reigning champions and the MVP, and he's no slouch. He's a modern day Shaq. We bitched every day. We're like, dude, Giannis gets every freaking call because he's superstar status. He's the best. So you took them down in 7 games. And then you went up to Jimmy Butler, who's, in my mind, an assassin. And I have a lot of respect for Jimmy Butler's game. And you took them out, number 1 in your division, or in the East. So there's a lot of, credit we have to give that team. But when you look at the roster, it's very, very youthful. And that's the only thing that I'm going to say, because I don't want to say you're Sammy, that I would discredit them to. And then the Warriors are no slouches. Yeah, they had a bad year, but that was because of a lot of injuries. So, of course, you're going to have that. And then the next year, they were in the play-in and they got booted or whatever. But, I mean, they were there, but they weren't running 100%. Now they're all running 100%. And Steph is a wizard. Like, Steph can pull a three-pointer out of his ass anywhere on the court. You should be scared if Steph is pulling up anywhere on the court. Andrew Wiggins is definitely coming to the right shell of himself, being around these guys. He's definitely stepped his game up from being a child to being, a tenacious dunker on people and not being afraid to make these power plays and moves. Then you got Draymond and Clay and the budding Jordan Poole. And where I disagree with you from the beginning, what you said, Vic, is like, this is a whole new different team. It looks exactly the same to me, just more youthful. They had seasoned veterans that were hungry to get that, the Barbosas, the Livingstons, the who else was there? I don't want to go down the list, but they had all these different players. And these guys, they drafted well in Moody and in Kuminga, and they're showing up when they need to show up. And the bench looks good. The bench looks youthful. The bench looks quick. And you're getting back Otto Porter. And you're getting back Gary Payton the second. And you're going to be getting back Andre Iguodala, who's, probably the head guy in the whole locker room trying to get these guys together. Not saying he's amazing, but still another body, But it's going to, in my personal opinion, I think it's going to be tough for the Celtics. But I could see this going 6 games, 6-7 games in either way.
Here's the thing is, though, Clay is not the same Clay.
He's not.
Clay is not good defensively. Can he still shoot? Sure, of course he can. But defensively, he cannot keep up with Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry. There's absolutely no way, if Jaylen Brown can learn how to dribble, that Klay Thompson is going to keep up with him. He's too slow. His feet are stuck in the floor. I'm not worried about Klay defensively. That's what I meant by the Warriors. And I know how highly they rank defensively during the regular season. I'm just talking about what I see on the floor, and there's no way with the guys that they have out there that they can match up with the Celtics defensively.
I mean, it is what it is. We said a lot of I don't see Brooklyn getting swept, and look what happened. Like, Brooklyn got swept. Like, if you went into that series, I know you're a diehard Celtics fan. Put your pride aside. Put all your love for this team away, because I've heard you throughout this year of the ups and the downs. These guys fucking suck. Fuck Greg Williams. Fuck this guy. You got to get rid of it. Like, I've heard it all. Put your pride aside and tell me, did you think you were going to sweep that team? Because I sure as fuck didn't think. I didn't.
I have to say, I need to apologize to Grant Williams, the slander that I had with him.
Vic apologizes every show.
But honestly, you're right. No, if you were going to tell me that they were going to sweep Brooklyn, no, I didn't. I knew they were going to win the series, but I didn't think they were going to sweep them now.
I had you guys winning the series. I remember me saying that. One, because I absolutely cannot stand KD or Kyrie. And the irony of all of this is their respective teams are in the finals without them. So, joke's on them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, by looking at each matchup that each individual team had, I look at it kind of similar to Vic, right? So you can take the stats all you want. In my opinion, I think the Celtics were the better team from regular season to playoffs. From January till the playoffs, we were the better team. I mean, there's a bunch of stats. I can read off all the stats you want. So, but if you look at it from a macro perspective, matchup per matchup, I think everybody is misconstruing what this Celtics team can do offensively. Yes, does it struggle at times? Yes, they struggle against teams that are very good at defense. And if I'm not mistaken, the two teams that we had to beat to get here are two of the top 5 defensive teams in the entire league, and if not since January as well. So we had to play both Miami and Milwaukee. And I think there was a mistake the other day. I think Seth Greenberg had said it, or somebody on ESPN was like, oh, Golden State's number 2 in defense. And I'm like, actually Milwaukee is. I think Golden State is number 2 or number 3 based on the last time that I had checked the regular season stats. Could have changed a little bit. Their net rating improved in the playoffs because their offense greatly improved. But the Celtics team can score in bunches, and I think to Vic's point, there's going to be a lot of matchups that I think the Celtics can exploit, and probably less matchups that Golden State can exploit. And I think Golden State is going to be more reliant on their movement off ball, which they're very good at, and that's going to be really difficult to understand. Can the Celtics be disciplined enough to counter what they're trying to do offensively? Because that's a well-disciplined, well-oiled machine that does all sorts of movements, all sorts of screens, off-ball screens, on-ball screens, all that stuff that we haven't seen yet. However, can they stop us? Because like Vic said, we are so long. We have guys that can shoot. We have guys that can put the ball on the floor, take it to the hoop. I see a scenario with Golden State winning, of course. I'm not disrespecting that team at all, but I just can't stand the slander of Celtics inconsistencies. I'm like, did you understand what the Celtics had to go through to get to the finals? Like, that's not easy. Like, those are good teams, man. Like, Miami's a dog team. Like, Milwaukee is a dog. Giannis was practically dropping 50 a game so that he didn't have to go home early. And they were playing such crazy, insane defense, and Budenholzer is a great coach. And I do give all the props, too, as well, to Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr's also a really good coach. But to Vic's point, it's going to be, is Klay's net rating in this series going to be good enough? Can he stop Jaylen if he's scoring, right? And that's a big if he's scoring well, can he stop Jaylen?
Yeah, and to your point, Sammy, so you mentioned the Golden State Warriors being second in defensive rating during the regular season, and indeed they were. But they were 8th in defensive rating after the All-Star break, with the Celtics in 3rd place there. And we actually beat the Miami Heat, who were 6th, and the Bucks were quite lower than that. They were like 20th in defensive rating after the All-Star break. So, but to your point, I think that we're going to be able to exploit those matchups on Golden State, and that's what gives me the biggest hope in this series to win it. Now, back to your original question, which is, why is this Celtics team being underrated? And I'm going to take what A-Rod said. It's that we're young, yes. But on top of that, it's because we don't win with our offenses, because we won with our defense. We're not flashy. We're not the true contested team that can score buckets. And honestly, people don't think we have the best player in the series. And I think at this point in everybody's careers, I think that we do have the best player in the series, Jayson Tatum. And that might be a hot take, whatever, but I think
if you want to at least call it a wash, you should at least call it a wash. Not you, Vic, but I mean in general. But yeah, if you're not on any sort of Jayson Tatum bandwagon right now, as an NBA fan, you can go fuck yourself, and excuse my French. Like, come on, man. What's this guy got to do?
I'm on the wagon. I told you, boys. I was like, I needed to see this from him for me to get that out of him. I needed to see this killer mentality, and he slayed a bunch of giants to get where he's at right now. and you have to respect that. And he's going up against the greatest shooter of all time now. And the greatest shooter of all time has got how many rings? 4? He's got 4 rings, right?
Yeah, he's great. He's great. Don't get me wrong, but
no MVP trophy. Do you think that's haunting him or no? I really don't think it is. I just think he wants to win one. But you just can't count Steph out. And do I think you have the better player in the series? Absolutely, I do. I would not discredit Jayson Tatum at all because of what I've seen that man do. But I can also not count out Steph. So it's like my LeBron James and Michael Jordan argument. You got 1A and 1B to me right there. And they're both elite to me.
All right, so a lot to dissect there. I think we summarized it perfectly. I think we did a good job of giving kind of the Celtics their due. Vic, anything else you want to touch on as far as kind of what you want to see from this Boston Celtics team? Because I know everywhere you go, anyone else you listen to, you're going to hear Golden State, Golden State, Golden State. But, you know, what do you think is key for this Boston Celtics team to win?
Pace. Got to keep that ball running in transition. Turnovers. Jaylen Brown, learn how to handle a damn basketball, okay, my guy? Too many turnovers in those Heat losses. Jaylen Brown, too careless with the ball. He's at his best when he's not dribbling. So, JB, just keep that in mind. For God's sakes, keep that in mind. So those two things, Sammy, turnovers and pace. Whenever we're up late in the game, we slow down our pace, and that's what allows teams to get back in the game.
Right.
We slow down. We try and wind the clock down. They run it back, score quickly, or get the foul, stop the clock, and that's how we let these teams back in. When we get a 10, 12-point lead, we need to hold that lead. Something I don't think is going to be a big factor in this series is home court advantage. This is a team that's tested on the road and has won major elimination games on the road. 2 of them, one in Milwaukee and one in Miami. So I'm not worried about these guys going on the road and winning games, Evan and Golden State, but as long as they keep that pace up and keep those turnovers down.
What about you, A-Rod? What are your keys to the game on either side? Because you're the more unbiased party here.
I'll stick to this. You know, I'll give both really quick. For the Celtics, what I preach about how I hate in the NBA, and you know, it's been going on all on today with KD, kind of like bashing Stephen A. and everybody on ESPN saying, has Steph Curry ruined the NBA? Well, you're gonna have that style of basketball play and the quick shoot three, get back, and I absolutely can't stand that. Let's everybody shoot threes. Oh, let's shoot a three. Let's shoot a three. Like, you're gonna have to play that now with Golden State because that's the type of basketball they play. So, you guys do it all. You can do it all. I mean, they can do it all too, but they're the kind of ones that pop up, make a quick three. Steph can score 9 points in like less than a minute, and it's scary to know that. So to go down by 9, you got to be shitting your pants if that were to happen. But the one thing I see from the Celtics is just don't get in your own heads. Like, I see Marcus Smart do it a lot, hence why he lost that one game. What was it against the Bucks, where he like turned the ball over in like two possessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we almost lost Game 7 because of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's Defensive Player of the Year. Cherish your trophy, cherish your accolades that you have, but don't get in your own head on stuff. And the same thing with Jaylen Brown. Like, you're a great player. You are a great player. I'm saying that. Like, Jaylen Brown is a great player, but sometimes he gets in his own head. There is definitely, like I love to say, the mouse in the house. Go yam on the mouse in the house when he's down there, or blow past the defender, because I've seen him do it numerous times. Just read your opponent and find how you can get past him. Don't be afraid to go down there. And then on the Warriors side, you're going to go see a defense you haven't seen yet. I know you pride yourselves as being this defensive team as well, but you're going to be tested by this Celtic team, and you better be ready for it. And they're not afraid to play down low. I mean, Big Bob is Big Bob for a reason. He may be 6'8" and tiny, but he plays like he's 7'3", and he gets to blocking shots at the 3-point line. We've seen it. So it's going to be a bit of give and take for both teams, in my opinion. But whoever can conform the best is obviously going to be the winner. You know, it's two different styles of play that we're going to see. And we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit in between A-Rod and Vic on my Celtics take. I think we need to keep up the pace, but I don't think we need to run with them. I think we have to control the game. Not slow it down, but just control it. We have to run at our pace. If we go too fast, that's going to be to the detriment of us because Golden State can run with us. But we have to find that intermediate balance. Obviously, transition, turnovers, we need to force those so that we can obviously score in transition. But I want to see more of the clock being used smartly, not just dribble for 10 seconds and then pass. No, I want to see us get up the court, look for the best shot, take that best shot. I want to use all 24 seconds, but smartly, not just waste 24 seconds. That's what I think we need to do. Because I don't want to run with them. I'm sorry, I don't want to run with them. I think Curry in transition is ridiculous.
I think this team's pace is better. We can run with these guys, dude.
We'll see. I just don't want turnovers. Like, if we force it too fast, look what happens. You know, we do force a lot of turnovers. But I don't think this is a defense that will force us to force turnovers, you know?
That's the thing is we don't have turnovers when we're forcing the pace.
Right.
Our turnovers come from dribbling into traffic.
Yeah, which we're not going to see.
Hard love to do.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that as much in this series, though.
I hope so.
I think they're going to try, but I don't think they're good at it.
I don't think they have the same paint defense and switchable defense that the Heat had. And I know Strus gets a lot of gripe for being a defender in that Heat series, but he's not a slouch.
No, he's not.
I think there's some slouches in the series. I think we can hunt
Jordan Poole
mismatch easily in this series. So, you know, that's why, you know, and I know we're getting close to 9 o'clock. So
yeah.
If you don't mind saying it, I'm just going to go ahead and give my
Perfect segue. Choose your picks. Who you got for the series?
I got Celtics in 6. I think we're gonna win it in the Garden at home.
All right, A-Rod, you gonna be like yesterday?
I truly do not care who wins this series. I'm rooting actually for both teams, man. I'm actually
gun to your head, like you tell me. Gun to your head.
Gun to my head. Jimmy Butler had it, but now gun to my head, Steph Curry has it. So hopefully it works in your advantage on that. I would say, I would love for you guys to win just so I can eat the crow on your show the next time I come on. But I'm gonna say Warriors in 6.
All right. Yeah, I got Celtics in 5. Let's go, baby. Let's go. I'm sticking with it. I know Vicky backed off it. If I look stupid, I don't care. Celtics in 5. Shout out to Green Runs Deep. Big Instagram follows. Hopefully he'll follow us soon. But yeah, so that kind of concludes our show for today. Nice and quick. I know we got the finals tipping off here in about 5-10 minutes. A-Rod, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, Vic, what you got?
Hey, you didn't want to talk about USMNT versus Morocco?
Not really.
All right, I guess we'll talk about it next time.
Not really. I do want to talk about how Taylor Twellman kept saying this was our starting roster, and it technically wasn't. But besides the point, we still got smashed. I mean, I'm not excusing the fact that Morocco got smashed. I was really impressed with USMNT though. Props. But A-Rod, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was a little bit of a quick show. Thank you for having me on yesterday. But for everybody that doesn't know, where can everybody find you? It's your time to shine. Do it up.
Always a pleasure, boys. And like I say, whenever you want to come on ours, we're always glad. I think you're the most tenured guest on our show, both of you. So it's always a pleasure collaborating. As for me, I am one half of the Fairweather podcast with my co-host KK, who couldn't make it tonight. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube at the Fairweather Podcast, Twitter at @fair_weatherpod. And where you subscribe to podcasts, just type in the Fairweather Podcast. You should find us there. We talk sports just like Sami and Vic do, but we just try to bring fans down to like alternatives of things. So fun little perspective of stuff.
Right, and as always, you guys can find us at the Townie Sports Podcast on Instagram, Townie_sports. Find us on TikTok, Townie Sports Pod, all one word. With that being said, I'm Sami, along with Vic. Thanks so much to one half of the Fairweather Podcast, A-Rod, for joining us today. We will see you guys in 2 weeks, hopefully with another Boston Celtics banner, baby.
Hey, swag so mean, swagger on 100. We keep it real, dog. Nah, we ain't never fronted. You know my whole cap G class stay blunted. My toes stay bruised, cause I'm running to the money. Swag's on me, swagger on 100. We keep it real, dog, nah, we ain't never frontin'. You know my whole cap, G-Clan stay blunted. My toes stay